Is up, everybody? Carnage here, coming to you with another episode of Raid Shadow Legends. Today I have a very special video. I just dropped a ton of money on this game. This Void specialty pack came up, and I just couldn't help myself. I bought it twice. I really wanted to open these shards on video, but I opened it at work because I'm just a very impatient guy. And when I tell you guys I got hooked up, I got hooked up. Let's see what I got. Void, I've been trying to have a Void specific team ever since I got Harrier as my first Void champion. He has carried me through every level of the campaign. He's 3-starred every single of the campaign levels single-handedly with his special ability of ignoring the defense while he's teamed up with Hospitaler on every critical hit. And then he's got such a high critical rate and critical damage, he just decimates everyone on every level. So I'm like, man, I need to get myself another Void champion that can handle the same type of payload that Harrier does. Well, I got Rowan, and Rowan is fantastic. I threw Rowan and got his speed way up there. I think it's like a 192 or something along those lines, 182. And he's done fantastic. He's super fast. He's got the mastery of, what is that, Giant Slayer, I believe, War Master. He does the major damage, not counting as the attack. That 6-star, that every champion that has the attack tree, skill tree should have one of those two, unless you're special like Harrier, when you just want to boost his crit damage. Anyways, back to these Void shards that I had opened up today. I got a lot of duplicates. I got a lot of champions that I didn't have. And yes, I even got myself a Void legendary champion, Blind Seer. She's kind of like Gorgorob, where she has an AoE heal, or not a heal, but an AoE revive. Revives everybody at 35% and has block damage. When you fully ascend her, the damage she takes damage of 25% of all the people that she revives max HP. This will happen even if it kills the champion, which I haven't used her yet, so I can't see if this is a good or a bad thing. I just have to find the right champions to make sure that her HP doesn't drop to 0, because that is just an amazing AoE revive. Gorgorob, he has done wonders for me in the arena. I'm really excited to see what Blind Seer is all about. Now, when I bought all of these Void shards, it came with a bunch of gems, and the only thing really to do with the gems for me at this point is to go into the shop. You go to the gem shop and you get the Ancient Shard large pack for 900 gems. That's 11 Ancient Shards. I was able to purchase that 4 times today. And out of that 4 times, I got a few epic champions, which was cool. But check this out. Just scored her War Mother. Now, yeah, she is one ugly champion, and really, I don't even like looking at her. But however, she comes in hot. She comes in so hot, she's dropping bombs on people. And I don't know if you've been in the arena where you have a champion that has a bomb attack. Well, those bombs, when they go off, they're just decimating. And War Mother, she is the best bomb champion to get. Her bombs just are insane. Insane. Instantly detonates all bomb debuffs if this attack is critical. Huge. Absolutely huge. That just wipes teams, guys. And I am super excited to level her, but I'm not there yet. I'm not quite there yet, because my whole sole purpose of opening all 44 of these Ancient Shards today is that I'm trying to 6-star Rich off. He's fully skilled, and when I get his masteries to the max, I know at 6-star if I give him, I believe it is War Master. Once I give him War Master, then he has a 60% chance of inflicting bonus damage when attacking. Bonus damage is equal to 10% of the target's max HP, or 4% of a boss's. This damage can only occur once per skill, but it doesn't count as an extra hit. So if you're attacking, it's not going to count as an extra hit. So you're doing the damage that your champion will do normally, and then you'll get that bonus damage, which is going to be huge, especially for Richoff, because he has a AoE A1 attack, which attacks all enemies and decreases their max HP by 10%. I haven't really found a good use for this skill. I guess maybe the spider is really the only place where that comes into effect, because you cannot block the heals from the spider, but you can decrease its max HP. And if you have a long battle of a spider that's going to take you a long time, over time, if you're continuously hitting her with this, reducing her max HP, might be a good thing. So, Richoff, he'll be my next 6-star. You know, he's my legendary. I wasn't expecting to get 2 legendaries today. That's just amazing to me. But I want to talk a little bit more on focus for you guys. I know a lot of you are not pay-to-win players. You know, when I started this game, I had no intentions of pay-to-play, but I got myself in a little groove with my credit card and paying it off and raising my credit score, that actually spending money on this game has been helping me by leaps and bounds, and I'm loving every second of it. I really, really, really am. So I don't really mind spending some money. But you free-to-play players, you can utilize the things in the game that give you gems, such as quests, missions, your daily login, your daily quests. All those things have potential to give you gems. Now, if you max out your gem mine, which I know is very expensive investment, but once you max that out, that's 115 gems a week. Now, that 115 gems may not sound a lot, but if you're doing your daily quests and your missions on the regular, by the end of the week, you're gonna have 450 gems easily. And in a couple weeks, you'll be able to buy those 11 ancient shards, and bam, you'll be right on deck with what I'm getting here with all these epic champions. Now, where do we go from here? Champions, that's the name of the game. But which champions do you want to train? Now, of course, you're not going to know which champions to train unless you've experienced them yourself. So, I would like to give a little bit of insight of each champion that I've been utilizing and let you know if I feel like they've been worth it. Now, I'll go down my list. I know it seems like I've got a lot of champions, but I'm only going to do the 50s that I've got. I won't really get into the ones that I haven't used because I really don't have any experience other than maybe faction wars on the people that I have at level 40 that I just throw in there at a whim. You know, most of these 40s are all geared up with artifacts just purely for the faction wars. I do have a few rares in here that I'm saving so I can level up for my next 60. Yeah. So having your champion vault, having space is key because your regular inventory fills up so quick, especially when you're pulling those green shards, so you can have more food to train your champions. But anyways, back to the point. Let's start off here with Norog. He is a beastly defensive champion. He has such a huge defense. I knew that facing him in PvP before I got him, that he was a tank. He's really hard to take down, and he just eats the damage coming from the defenders. Now, for me, deciding on his artifacts was kind of difficult. But then I got some legendary artifacts. These were my first legendary artifacts that I ever got. So of course I'm going to put it on the only legendary champion that I have at 60. Provoke, however, has improved Norog to be even better than what he has been. You can see here that his defense is well over 3,000, which is huge, especially with this provoke, that he's constantly provoking the enemies. He's constantly taking the damage from everybody. He's pulling the focus away from the champions that don't have AoE, and he's taking all of the damage. So he is a great, great, great champion to utilize if you are lucky enough to get him when you have champions that don't have the defense. Especially if you're able to equip him with a provoke. That pulls the attention away from the other champions that you got that may be weaker, that maybe would be eliminated prior if they didn't, if the provoke wasn't put on Norog. So, my opinion on Norog, 5 stars, 5 out of 5. Definitely someone that I would invest my time and effort into him. If you get him, 100% do it. Norog is a beast. Now, speaking of champions that don't really have that great of a defense, let's move on to Rowan. Rowan, I believe it's a chick. Not sure. Can't really tell. But he or she is also a beast. He or she has a incredible base speed where I utilize that base speed and I increase it as fast as I possibly can because he has a skill, I believe it's his A1, where his damage is based on attack and his speed. Having speed is beneficial in so many ways, especially with the clan bosses, which I used him primarily because he also has a attack that hits 3 times, which goes good with his mastery skill, which I'll get to in a second. But he also has a poison ability that attacks 4 times. So that's 4 attacks with 4 times potential for 4 different poisons. Now, what makes Rowan such a good champion, on top of his speed allows him to go multiple times before the clan boss. And with his masteries, I have Giant Slayer on that, which has a 30% chance of inflicting bonus damage when attacking. Bonus damage is equal to 7.5 of the target champion's max HP or 3% of the target's max HP when attacking bosses. Bonus damage can occur on each hit. So you have a 30% chance on each hit, but it does not count as an extra hit. So, Rowan, how awesome is that? He's got 2 skills that attack more than 1 time. 3 times there, 4 times there. 30% chance on each hit. That's huge, huge damage to the clan boss. 30% chance isn't that great, but when you have so many turns and so many times attacking, your odds are much, much greater, and he does quite a bit of damage to the clan boss. Definitely worth leveling Rowan if you happen to get him. That brings me to my next champion, Skull Crusher. Skull Crusher is one of my all-time favorites. He is just an animal. Well, I don't know if he's an animal underneath that helmet or not. Kind of looks like he's an animal, but he's definitely an animal on the battlefield. What makes him so badass is that he has the unshakable passive ability, which decreases the duration of all debuffs by 1 turn every single turn. So if you get frozen, if Skull Crusher gets frozen or stunned or put to sleep for only 1 turn, then might as well have not done anything. So when you're attacking that clan boss and he comes in at that powerful pound, bam, and he stuns your champion, he stuns your Skull Crusher. When it's Skull Crusher's turn again, he gets to come back without any delay. He's right back in the game. And that goes for any champion or any debuff that goes on this champion that's 1 turn. It's might as well not have it at all because it does nothing. Any debuff has to have 2 turns or more, or it does not affect Skull Crusher at all. And guys, that is huge. Now, also, Skull Crusher has the 50% ally protection buff on all allies except for this champion for 2 turns, and places a counterattack buff on all allies except for this champion for 2 turns. Also turns Skull Crusher unkillable for 1 turn. Now, that puts all the focus on this champion when you're attacking PvP and he goes and he hits that stone wall. I've noticed that all of the PvP champions on the defense will go for him because he doesn't have a counterattack. But if those champions have an AoE, they're as good as dead, especially when you're pairing them with strong champions like Rowan or Norog or even Harrier. He has a heal reduction, which is good for bosses or champions that have a lot of healing abilities or whatever. It's great to take that down. Now, for me, I've been spending a little bit of time in the Fire Knights dungeon because they've got some really cool artifacts, and what I've done to Skull Crusher has made him unstoppable. And when I say unstoppable, I mean unkillable. He is a beast. I threw on these reflex artifacts, which gives him a 30% chance to reduce a random skill cooldown. Well, guys, he only has one skill that can be cooled down, and that's his Stonewall. And if you have it max skilled, it only takes 3 turns. So if he's reducing it by 1 turn every other turn, or however many times that the artifacts take an effect, he's almost always placing counterattacks on your entire team, and he's placing the unkillable buff on himself, and he just lasts forever. Not to mention his defense. His defense is well over 3,000 right now, too. I got lucky with some defense percentage artifacts, which boost his defense crazy. I'm still learning how the percentage and all of these numbers in the bottom right corner actually take an effect, because I haven't really had a chance to look at the bar graphs that are on the Reddit, but I do know that the higher it goes, the higher it needs to be to make a difference, if that makes any sense to you. So boosting his defense from 1,000 to 2,000 does more for his defense than boosting it from 2,000 to 3,000. Yes, he has more defense at 3,000 than he does at 2,000, but the difference between 1,000 and 2,000 is much greater than between 2,000 and 3,000. And then the further up you go, the more you're going to need to upgrade in order to get the defenses up. So Skull Crusher, 100%, you get him. That should be your man, because if your focus is on anything at all in the game, Skull Crusher is key for your team. He really is. All right, Skull Crusher, bad boy. That I love him. I love him. All right, now we're gonna go to Gorgorob. Gorgorob was my very first champion that I got out of a Sacred Shard. I was all geeked. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get a legendary. And then I got him, an epic. I'm like, really? An epic? Come on, guys. Seriously? But then I looked at what he got. What's Gorgorob got? He's got Misfortune. His A1 has a 50% chance of removing 1 random debuff. Now I added that extra 25%. It's multiplicative, not additive, so it's not a 75% chance. It's 25% times 50%, which is roughly 60-ish, 61. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure the exact numbers, but he removes debuffs a lot, and that's great for an A1, especially if you're pairing him with Skull Crusher with counterattack. Now, every time that he uses his base move to counterattack, there's a chance that he's going to be removing a buff from those bad guys, which, fantastic. Now, his A2, Resurge, he increases the attack of all allies by 15% and increases their turn meter, which is huge. No, wait, I said that wrong. Places a 50% increase on attack and 15% on the turn meter, which is great when you've got fast champions that have high attack, like Rowan, because now sometimes he goes 3 times before a champion will be able to go 1 time, especially if you pair him with a champion that decreases the turn meter. Gorgorob, he is not only good with removing buffs and giving buffs, he also is a healer. And he also is a reviver. He probably is the best in the game. That's my opinion. He revives all dead allies with 25% HP, and then heals all allies by 25% HP. So not only are they being revived, but then they're getting another 25% of HP on top of that. It's sick. And then if you max skill him, that's even more heals. So he is essential. He has been the essential key for my PvP teams, because once all my guys get knocked out, bam, he revives them. And if you got high defense guys, then they're just really a pain in the neck to get these guys off my PvP team. I don't have all those artifacts or accessories rather, because I don't have it. The stupid spider does not like to drop what I need, but so I just let that sit. I've got him with some lifesteal gear and also some, what is that called? Some immortal gear. So he's constantly getting health every time he attacks, and then every turn he's getting a little more health. He's always one of the last to die. Recently, I got Steel Skull, which he's a pretty awesome champion to pair with Gorgorob. They work awesome together. But as for Gorgorob, it's a given. Definitely train this champion as much as you can if you are lucky enough to get him. Steel Skull. Man, is this champion fantastic. This champion has an A1 that is a poison. I don't have any of his A1 skilled up because, honestly, this champion, for me, he isn't an attacker. Yeah, he can attack, but his primary focus is to keep my team alive. And how does he do that? He's got two healing skills on him, which they're awesome. His first healing is his A2. It removes all debuffs from target ally, then heals them by 40%. Now, that's huge. Debuffs, they suck, guys. Everybody knows nobody wants a debuff on their champion, especially a heal reduction, whether it be 50% or 100%. If they have a heal reduction, then those healers on your team, they're not healing your champions. So this is beautiful. It's removing that debuff right away. If there's a 100% heal reduction on one of your champions and you got Steel Skull, he can use his cleansing spell and bam, removes that debuff, and now he heals them by 40%. They're back in the game. Back in the game is huge. Now, their A3, now Steel Skull's A3, it's just as good. Why? It doesn't heal just one of your champions. It heals all of your champions, and it increases their defense by 60%. Increases their life by 20% of their max HP, and increases their defense. You combine this guy with Gorgorob, who has the ability to revive your team, and the combination of these two guys together, the bad guys don't know who to kill first. They kill Gorgorob, then yeah, there's no revives. But if they leave Steel Skull alone, he's going to sit there and he's going to heal Gorgorob while the other two champions are attacking. It's insane. These two, Gorgorob and Steel Skull, together, it's almost impossible to kill them. Unless you put all of your focus on them, then maybe you have a chance to take them down. But then you got those other two champions that are just laying waste to your team. Steel Skull, 100%. You get this guy, train. He is amazing. Amazing asset for every single battle. Now brings me to the next champion, which actually a little bit more about Steel Skull. Steel Skull, another thing that makes him so unkillable is the artifacts that I placed on him. Like I said, I've been playing in the Fire Knights dungeon, and I got myself some regeneration artifacts. That's 10% of his max HP, which is 40,000 something, every turn. Just by these 4 artifacts, he gets 10% every turn. And then I threw 2 immortals on that, which is another 3%. So every single turn, he's healing 13% of his max HP, which makes him very dangerous. You leave him alone for more than 2 turns, then he's got more than a quarterback of his health. Not to mention his 2 skills that bring back his HP or any HP to any champion that needs it, makes him super, super dangerous. Super dangerous to keep alive on the enemy team. Which brings me to my next champion, who everybody and their mother and their father and their cousins and their dogs and their cats and their birds and everyone in the entire game has been sleeping on, Harrier. People have been sleeping on this guy. He is a void, rare champion. And now people have gotten him and they read his reviews, which I completely disagree with all of his reviews because I think that he is probably the best champion in the world. Like, look at 4-1, 4-2, 3-8, 3-9, 2-8, 2-9, 2-7, 3-9, blah, 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 blah. All of these are wrong. Every single one of them. They all should be 5.0 because Harrier does more damage output than any other champion consistently every single time. He has amazing gear. This is what I spent my money on when I first started the game, was getting his gear, the Divine Critical Rating. Personally, I would do the same, but I got lucky as heck with his gauntlets because his gauntlets have crit damage. They're 5-stars. So at max 16, it does 65% extra crit damage. So I've got his crit damage way up there. Where is it at? It's 193% crit damage at 77% crit rate. That's not 100%, guys. So yeah, 3 out of 4 times he's critting. That 4th time you're looking at it like, oh my god, please don't die. Please, please don't die. But at 193%, he is using 193% of almost 3,000 attack. It's huge. He's hitting people for 50k per turn on his basic A1 move. It's insanity. And what makes him even greater is that he is a void champion. And I'm not sure if you've watched any of the 101s that Raid puts out for their YouTube channel, but they gave a specific video on affinities, and they explained with the void characters how they don't have a disadvantage to any affinity. Not infinity, affinity. So what does that mean? That means that since Harrier is a crit champion, a crit attack champion rather, he has no affinity that has an advantage over him. So that means that his critical rate is that. There's no takeaway from his critical rate, such as if you were a green going against a blue, for instance, it would have a reduction on the critical rate because you're going up against a disadvantage. Well, there is no disadvantage for Harrier, so he always has that 77% crit rate. Always. Every single time. So he doesn't have a disadvantage, and he's hitting at that 193%. He is decimating people. Decimating. And on his skills, his A1 has an ability to 15% chance of placing an extra hit. And his A1 roughly does about 25k. So if he does it twice, that's 50k. 50k with one hit. Now you go on to his A2, puncture bolts. That's attacks one enemy 2 times. That's 25k each hit, guys. That's 50k. And it has the 30% chance of decreasing the defense, which is huge for the clan boss, but unfortunately he's been outranked by my other champions for the clan boss. Deadeye Strike, now that's the one that just totally decimates the enemy team on PvP because that's 50k every time. Just one shot, bam, critical hit, taking it down every time. The only thing that takes Harrier back is that if you're going against a hard defense champion, if they have a really high defense such as my Norog, then that 50k could turn to 40k or 30k and or so on. He does have a awesome passive ability which he needs another champion for, Hospitaller. But if you happen to have Harrier and Hospitaller on the same team, Harrier will ignore 50% of the target's defense when this champion inflicts a critical hit. Okay, well, 77% of the time, he's inflicting a critical hit. And since he has no disadvantage at 77% is solid every single time. Well, you throw Hospitaller on there, now those champions that have such a hard defense, they aren't so hard anymore. And is keeping Harrier alive is the key, because as soon as he hits, every champion's dead. Every champion's dead. The only problem that he's been coming across on PvP for me is when you have those nuke teams that have fully skilled and fully mastered champions with that either Giant Slayer or War Master skill, and that wipes that team out before Harrier can go through and eliminate everybody. That's only been his downfall for me. Harrier, definitely don't sleep on Harrier, guys. Don't feed Harrier off. He is probably the best champion that you're going to get for a very long time. Do not sleep on this one, guys. He is a beast. Definitely train him. All right, moving on to Richoff. Now, Richoff, I was not a fan of. I got him. Yeah, he was my first legendary. He was really cool. I placed the wrong artifacts on him because I didn't really know what was going on at the time. He's got a AoE A1, which is cool. I didn't really care for decreasing the max HP by 10%, but that makes him good for the spider. I think I explained that for the AoE attacks on the spider. Decreasing the spider's max HP is the only way to stop him from fully healing himself when he consumes his little spiderlings. You can't stop the heal from the spider because his healing is assured, so decreasing his max HP isn't a bad option. So I max skilled him, and we'll see where he goes from there. I think that if I give him the Giant Slayer mastery, this will be a nuke for PvP, and he might even be better. For the clan boss, I use Richoff primarily because of his A2. He attacks one enemy 3 times, places a 5% poison, which is the highest poison that you can get, for 2 turns. Well, he shoots 3 times. Well, if you increase his accuracy, almost every single time, all 3 hits are going to place a poison. Now, depending on what clan boss that you're facing, that could be 20k, could be 30k, could be 40k for each poison on that champion or on that opponent. Now, that's awesome. He places more poison than any other champion that I have. Even Rowan, who has the ability to place 4 poisons. More often than not, Rowan's only putting 2. If I'm lucky, he'll get 3, but most of the time it's only 2 out of 4 poisons. Richoff, consistent. Every single time, it's 3 poisons. Every single time. Now, another awesome thing that Richoff has that I've kind of slept on at first was his Curse Hold. Now, that attacks one enemy and copies 1 random debuff on that target and places it on all enemies. How sweet is that? You got the Bloodletting, which is going almost guaranteed to throw poison on your opponent. And then you have Curse Hold. If you do the Bloodletting, then Curse Hold, you don't have to hit every champion with the poison because you're going to poison every single champion as long as your accuracy on Richoff is higher than the resistance on the other team. Richoff, legendary champion. It's a given. Train him. Train him, train him, train him, train him, train him. He is awesome. Try to increase his masteries, or try to increase his artifacts, and give him the highest accuracy that you possibly can. I'm not finished with his artifacts, so his stats will get a little bit better. Train him, use him, love him. Let's go to the next champion. And this champion, I seen him when I got him, and I seen that he just looks sweet. His picture is so sweet to me that I was like, I gotta have him. And then I read the reviews, and he just seems to have great reviews. Now, like I said in an earlier part of the video, you can't always trust the reviews, but when you have so many reviews that make him so great, 4.9, 4.6, 4.8, 4.9, those types of reviews, you can't really ignore. So, what did I do? I max skilled him. What type of skills does he have? Well, let's go over that. He is Harvest Blood for his A1. Your A1 move, you want to have something special with your A1 because that's going to be the move that you utilize more often than not because you can get block cooldowns happening, a bunch of different stuff happening where you may not be able to use your A2 or A3 or whatever, so your A1 has to be good. And his is flawless. He is such a good support champion. He attacks one enemy, has a 30% chance of decreasing the cooldown of one random ally skill by 1 turn. Now, if you're using him on a clan boss, that's awesome because you could be decreasing the cooldown of your healer or your reviver or someone that's throwing HP burn or poison on the clan boss. Decreasing a random skill cooldown of a random ally, that is just phenomenal. You can't go wrong with that. And if you max skill him, then that chance increases even more. Let's move on to his A2, Maelstrom. Attacks all enemies in AoE. Gotta love that. Has a 50% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack for 2 turns. Decreases the turn meter of each target by 20% if they're not under a decreased attack. So, the first time that this thing hits, unless you have another champion that has decreasing the opponent's attacks, he's decreasing everybody's turn meter by 20%. So if you're running champions that are fast, have high speed like Rowan, you're getting even more turns before the enemy can attack. That's huge. If the enemy is not attacking you, they're not doing damage to you, that means you're going to win. If the enemy can't attack, then you're going to win. That's just very basic knowledge. You're not going to hurt me, then I won't get hurt. Not only does he decrease the turn meter of the opponents, but his A3 also has a 30% increased speed buff that happens on all allies for 2 turns, and it boosts their turn meter by 20%. So not only is he decreasing the turn meter by 20% of the bad guys, but he's increasing the turn meter by 20% of the good guys. And he's increasing their speed, which increases their turn meter rate also. Huge. So that makes your team so fast. And that makes you have more hits, quicker than the enemy, more possibility of taking the enemy out super, super, super fast. I definitely would say train Golden Reaper. He takes a lot of books. I don't know if you've noticed. I think it was 14 books. Let's see. 6 plus 5 is 11 plus 1. That's 12 books. It takes 12 epic books to get him fully skilled. Yeah, that was all of my skill books when I trained him. Do I regret it? I haven't really utilized him yet. I've used him a couple of times, but on the clan boss for me now, he just doesn't have the spot yet. But I've seen videos, other YouTubers that have been using Golden Reaper on the Ultra Nightmare boss or even the Nightmare boss, and he's doing major damage. So I'm guessing once he's level 60 and he gets that War Master ability, he's going to be overpowered as anybody else. Try not to swear here, guys, so keep in mind. All right, so Golden Reaper. Train him? Absolutely. Get him there. Get him there as fast as you can. Let's move on to the next guy. Lich. Now, I got Lich early in the game, and I got him, and he looked a lot like Gorgorob. He's part of the Undead Hordes. I'm like, he's a defense champion. Gorgorob gives heals. I thought those two were going to be a great combination. So I started spilling my books into him early in the game. Unfortunately, he just doesn't really put out the damage that I thought he was going to. He does have his damage based on his defense, which is great. He attacks one enemy with his A1, has a 30% chance of playing a 50% decreased accuracy, which is great when you got opponents that are constantly debuffing. Decreasing their accuracy is a great thing to do, so that is a good thing to have. Now, Lich also has Cocoon, which increases his defense by 60%, which in turn makes his attacks stronger, and then also that move heals this champion by 20% of his max HP. That is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Makes him a really hard champion to kill. It makes him super strong because his defense is going up. He heals himself, and every time that he heals himself, it makes it even harder for him to be killed. Defensed up, he's like a Pokemon. Harden. Anyways, his A3, pretty good move. Attacks one enemy and fully depletes target's turn meter. Places 30% decreased speed. So pretty much, him and Golden Reaper seem like they would be a fantastic duo, seeing how they both decrease the speed and the turn meter. That more, like I said, more turns, more attacks, less opportunity for your team to lose. He does have an aura skill, which is increase ally defense in faction crypts by 27%, which is good. Getting Lich, would I train him if you don't have anybody else? Sure. Should he be a primary build if you got a better champion, someone that's more useful for the team? Lich is a great champion, but all of his buffs really only benefit him individually. And that is a little rough, especially when you're going in PvP, because your whole team can get eliminated, but you have one guy left. It's not a guaranteed win. You really want symmetry within your team to where every champion is helping each other champion out and bringing themselves up. Yes, his decreasing turn meter is good for your fast champions, but overall, I would say he would be a secondary upgrade. He is an epic champion too, so that does make a difference in power level, but you're also spending epic tomes to increase his skills, and really there's just better options out there. So, do you want to train Lich? I would say maybe. Depending on who you have, he is a good solo champion. He does survive the clan boss. He does survive the dungeons and the campaign missions really well. But really, he's a greedy champion. He's only helping himself out overall. So, yeah, I trained him because I had him early on. Would I do it again? There's other champions that I would train beforehand. Moving on. We got Husk. Now, when I was coming up in the PvP ranks, I seen a lot of Husk. I've seen him, and he was actually really difficult to